Dr. Michael J. Burry of Big Short fame is on Twitter, and he has just cast quite a warning about the housing market, in particular mortgage-backed securities today. I have got my man, the moderator, Mish, right here with me. Mish, Dr. Burry kind of painted a
He
grim picture, didn't
he
he?
did, and we sat there and we had to look at it for a minute because there's just not a lot of coverage of this in the mainstream media. But we found some really good stuff, and we're going to talk about it today, I think.
Yeah, yesterday we had the big story was all the inflation number, right? We spent hours talking about it on this channel, talking about the CPI print coming in at 8.6%. So it was dominating the headlines. But the effect that that CPI reading had on the mortgage industry yesterday has not yet made news, right? You're not going to hear about it on CNBC. You're not going to hear it on Bloomberg, but it's happening right now. It's already happened. It just hasn't reached us yet. And really what it boils down to is the housing market just crashed and prices haven't figured it out yet.
Prices haven't figured it out yet, and Mr. Burry said that the MBS is a real-time market, and it doesn't wait around for a week for the news cycle to catch up. So the movements we saw today or yesterday were pretty seismic.
And real quick, MBS, that is a mortgage-backed security, right? Take your mortgage, your loan, which is basically an IOU to the bank. The bank takes that and puts it in a whole other stack of IOUs, and then they sell it all in one to your pension fund, usually, or a mutual fund. They call that a mortgage-backed security or a mortgage bond, and this is the market that we're talking about. And let's go right to what Dr. Burry has said on Twitter. And here is the tweet in question. This is Cassandra BC, i.e. Dr. Michael J. Burry, and he says, transitory, no. Peak, no. To the moon, if you mean a cold, dark place. And then he's got this quote, and this quote is from this Cherry Creek Mortgage article. The CPI news this morning was so awful that it changed the bond market's view of Fed trajectory, and the weakest sector broke. In bond jargon, MBS went no bid, no buyers for MBS.
Yeah,
now
crazy.
I want you to understand what that meant. And first of all, this happened very briefly, okay? The MBS went no bid very briefly. But no bid, it means exactly what he's saying here, no buyers. For a brief moment in time, there was not one single offer to buy one of these mortgage-backed securities.
No, that means that there's literally no one will buy them at any price.
Yeah. So
Nobody
they
wants
were,
them.
for a very brief moment in time, they were essentially worthless. If there is not one person willing to buy it from you at any price, it is worthless. And that happened yesterday, right? We had this big CPI read, this big inflation number, and mortgage-backed securities started to tank. Now, Dr. Burry includes a link here to this Cherry Creek mortgage outfit. Now, when you follow that link that Dr. Burry tweeted out, you get to Cherry Creek Mortgage, and you get this article written by someone named Lewis, I'm guessing it's Lewis.
I'm going with
S.
Lewis.
Barnes.
Yep.
Sorry, Lois. Lou. I'll call you Lou. It's dated yesterday. During the last 44 years, my days have begun and ended with the mortgage market. 4 painful moments stand out. Today makes 5. There may have been more good days, but even the fairy godmother has her limits. Mortgages are covered poorly in financial press, as stocks and such are much more entertaining. Today's events, still unfolding, will take days for good coverage. Freddie's weekly survey will not discover today until next Thursday, but the MBS market is real time, just like you said, Mish, not like the old sleepy savings and loan days. The CPI news this morning was so awful that it changed the bond market's view of Fed trajectory, and the weakest sector broke. In bond jargon, MBS went no bid, no buyers for MBS. Then a few posted prices beyond borrower demand, not wanting to buy except at penalty prices. Overnight, the retail consequences has been a leap from roughly 5.5% to 6% for low-fee 30 fixed loans.
And I know you've got the math, you're going to talk about the payments and stuff, but when you're looking at a 30 basis point jump in one day in mortgages, and that's a ridiculous amount for mortgages. That's a ridiculous amount for bonds. But for a 30-point basis jump for one day in mortgage is ridiculous. So if we're part of the movie of Margin Call, which I love, by the way, we're at the point where Mr. Sullivan is explaining it to the CEO at the last board meeting about what's going on. And they're talking about the music slowing and the music stopping. Well, Mr. Burry has called the music slowing, and no one knows yet. So he's Mr. Sullivan, and the music slowing.
MBS went no bid, so that was the music stopping. For just a brief moment, the music stopped. It started up again, but that could be an indicator of things to come. And right here in Fortune magazine, this is dated today. The economic shock hitting the housing market is getting bigger. 6% mortgage rates look close. And yesterday, the average rate of a 30-year fixed rate mortgage hit 5.85%. And
That's crazy.
that's a 30 basis point jump in one day.
One day.
We went from 5.55 to 5.85. Now, I just want to give you an idea of this and the scale of this. We started the year at 2.55% for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. We started at 2.5. Yesterday, we hit 5.85. All right, and we did a little bit of math right before we started this video. All right, and bear with me here. But at the beginning of the year, if you would have bought the median house price in the United States, the median house in the U.S., $428,700.
And that median price is from
God.
Fred from St. Louis.
Yep.
That's where we got the median price from.
That's sourced by the St. Louis Fred. So say you bought the median price, $428,700 sale price. Say you put 20% down, which who has 20% of that anymore?
Yeah, I'm lucky to have 10%.
But let's say the average buyer is putting 20% down, as you should when you buy a house, because PMI is a toilet that you flush money down. So you're looking at a loan of $342,960. All right. So at the beginning of the year, when you were paying about 2.65% at the beginning of the year,
Yep.
your payment on that $342,960 loan would have been $1,382 a month.
And now that's just principal and interest, right?
Principal and interest, property taxes, insurance, all that's going to vary. But your P&I, $1,382 a month. Now, if you were to take that same loan today, all right, that same $342,960 loan for the median sale price house with 20% down, now today you're buying it at 5.85%. Now your payment on that house, $2,023. Your payment, just since the start of this year, that payment for the same house at the same price has gone up $641. Wow. Now here's the thing, 65 of that was yesterday alone.
Just yesterday.
Just yesterday, the mortgage payment, the monthly payment for that same average house, just yesterday, it went up $65 a month. You know, you were talking before, you said that's a tank of gas.
Yeah. That's a tank of gas. That's
small tank of gas.
Well, the small tank of gas, that's McDonald's for the evening for a family too.
Yeah, and now think about this. We've also got the rising energy prices, the rising food prices, the cost of living, and wages are still only going up, what, 4.5% or something like that? People won't be able to make these payments. Folks, homes just became unaffordable. They are not affordable. The average family cannot afford the median home price, and the price of borrowing just went up so much. Now, here's the thing. We have another Fed rate hike coming in 3 days. On Wednesday, the Fed gets together for the FOMC meeting, and they're going to hike by at least 50 basis points. I hear people talking about 75 basis points now.
I've actually heard 100. I don't think that's reality, but I've heard it.
So just based on everything that they're talking about, the rate hikes, you know, look, what's going on right now in markets as the 10-year yield rises, the 10-year Treasury yield is pretty much the interest rate that all other interest rates are based upon. And for the better part of the year, as the 10-year rose, the average mortgage rate was rising about twice as much, about twice as fast. If the 10-year Treasury went up 1%, the average mortgage went up 2%. Well, that was while the Fed was still buying mortgage-backed securities for the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Remember, they were tapering. They were still buying MBS. Now the Fed is not buying MBS. As a matter of fact, the Fed is going to start selling MBS. Or to be more correct, they'll be letting MBS roll off. But eventually they'll be selling it.
Yeah, they have to sell at some
In
point.
September, when they double the rate of quantitative tightening, they'll be selling it. So I've heard some estimates from other channels that are saying that the 10-year Treasury could be as high as 4% by the end of the year, which based on the current rate that the 30-year mortgage is rising as the 10-year rises, that would put the 30-year mortgage somewhere around 8.4%.
Wow.
If the 10-year went to 4%.
So that would basically just double again what we just went through the last 6 months.
Yep.
But this is going to come faster.
We could do this. We could hit 4% in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about 50 basis points next week. And then a month from now, we're going to get another 50, maybe 75. We've got QT starting now. Yeah, we could get to 4% on the 10-year real fast. Real fast here. Now, here's the thing. If we go to 4% on the 10-year, based on the current rise in mortgage rates as the 10-year rises, we're looking at 8.4% on that mortgage. So let's take that same house, that same $428,700 median house with the same 20% down, borrowing $342,960. Now your monthly payment, if we go to 8.4% on a 30-year mortgage, $2,613.
What's that? 1,200 up in a year?
We're talking about in less than a year, the same house, the mortgage payment, principal and interest only, $1,382 all the way to $2,613, almost doubling the payment for the same house.
And house prices really haven't changed yet. So you're looking at step increases of the interest rate without housing. Well, really, some houses are still going up. Some markets have rolled.
I can see it in the comments right now.
Yeah.
People are going to say, well, in Fort Lauderdale, people are still paying 20% above ask, and in my local, it's doing this. Look, I get that. Every real estate market is different. Know your local.
Mm-hmm.
All right? But these numbers that we're talking about right here, national average home prices and average mortgage rates, all right, these are not sustainable numbers. This math doesn't work, not when wages are going up 4.5%, 5%, not when fuel is going up 30%. Was it month over month or year over year?
Yeah, month over month.
People cannot afford these homes. That means foreclosures are coming. That means buyers are disappearing. And that also means a lot of people who've been speculating in real estate, people who've been buying rental properties, own 3 or 4 houses, they're going to try to get out while they still can. So we are going to have a deluge of inventory about to hit the housing market right as all the buyers are leaving, right as interest rates are going up. These prices are on the edge of the cliff.
Right.
And I think yesterday's CPI was the nudge.
Yeah. And, it's not really a black swan anymore. It's a culmination of events. And I think if we look back, during the housing crisis 14 years ago, where we're at now and where we're at then, we're at 2 different places. We're further along, and we haven't even started the fix yet, if you will. So the deep is going to get worse.
Mish, it's funny you should mention the housing crisis. I have a chart, and I got to send a shout out to Kieran Van Hest, a.k.a. Deso Games, on Twitter. I did an interview with Kieran a couple of weeks ago. It was a fantastic interview. It was eye-opening talking to him, and he turned me on to this. What we're looking at right here is the iShares MBS ETF, or MBB is the ticker. This is a fund, an ETF. It trades like a stock, but it is made up of all supposedly AAA-rated mortgage-backed securities. Now, Kieran went into this fund and realized that it's actually not made up of all AAA-rated mortgage-backed securities, i.e., they're making the same stupid mistakes they made in the GFC. Right. But that's not the reason I bring this up right now. Look at where this is trading at. This is trading right here, all the way down here. By the way, it's never good when the candles for price are so low that you can't really see it clearly because the volume candles are in the way.
It goes into the volume.
That's bad sign right there, okay?
Well, there's your problem.
That's your problem right there. Trading at 97.03 right now for this mortgage-backed security ETF. And I maxed out this chart for a reason, because this goes all the way back to 2007, as a matter of fact. And in 2007, at the low, it was trading at 98.16.
By all indications, we are worse off than we were 14 years ago, and it's not getting any better.
These mortgage bonds right now are worth less than they were after everybody stopped paying their mortgages in the global financial crisis. After the second housing crash has already happened. It's already hit the MBS market. It's already hitting the mortgage market. Prices just haven't come down yet.
No one told the people buying yet.
And this article, I'm coming back to this article that Dr. Burry tweeted, and there's some text in here that's it's kind of telling. They talk about head injuries here, the physics of collisions in this article. They say it's the second one that does the harm. They say when your car hits a telephone pole, no problem. But then after a slight delay, the trouble comes when you hit the inside of your car.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what happened yesterday in the mortgage-backed security market, they're saying that's the car hitting the telephone pole.
Yep.
We just have not slammed into the steering wheel or hit the windshield yet.
It's going to take until next Thursday for the market to figure out what happened. And that's when it's really going to start the fun.
Next Thursday, right after we get
the
Fed
day
on
after
Wednesday.
the FOMC.
Now, there's another thing they mention here in the physics of collisions. They say the same thing in football. Helmet to helmet's okay. It's fine until your brain hits the inside of your skull.
Yeah.
So what Lou Barnes is talking about here is we are in between those two collisions. That the CPI reading yesterday and the mortgage-backed securities reaction to it, that was the first collision. And the rest of us are just lagging behind it. Maybe Thursday.
Maybe Thursday.
Maybe the combination of the Fed and then Thursday with the Freddie report on what happened in mortgage-backed securities. Maybe the news cycle finally catches up.
Maybe your boy talks about it on Wednesday, J-Pal.
Yep, maybe Powell mentions it. Oh, I can't wait to hear what Powell mentions. By the way, we will be live streaming Jerome Powell's press conference on Wednesday, so come join us here for that.
Yep.
And they go on in this article, another analogy. They say now it's time for Wile E. Coyote and his Acme sneakers running off into thin air, and everything's okay until he looks down.
You know, I think we had that analogy
that
about 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
So long story short, if you're sitting there asking yourself, is the housing market going to crash? Or when is the housing market going to crash? Wrong question. You have to ask the right question. The housing market has already crashed. The question is, when is everybody going to figure it out? Maybe Thursday.
Maybe Thursday. Maybe not. Maybe it may take interest rates going back up to 8%.
The fact is, after yesterday, after a 30 basis point hike in mortgages in one day, and a doubling of mortgage rates over the span of 6 months, homes are no longer affordable. That is a fact. The average person cannot afford the average house anymore. So with rates rising, that means those home prices have to come down. And the bond market, as always, is the first to sniff it out. And nobody wants to touch these mortgage-backed securities. And you might be saying, that's fine. I don't own mortgage-backed securities. I don't care. Do you have a pension? Do you have an IRA? Do you have a 401k? If you do, then you own mortgage-backed securities. You better believe it. This stuff is in your own retirement accounts. Mm-hmm. So it's not exactly how it played out in 2007, 2008, but man, there's a lot of similarities right now.
Pensions took a lot of hits back then too.
Yeah. So we will stay on top of this one, and we'll keep our ear to the ground, folks, but expect to hear about this in the coming days. Eventually, the press will figure it out. Thanks, Mish, the moderator, for being here for this one.
Remember to keep your pet spayed neutered.
Yeah, he's channeling Bob Barker on my channel. That's great. All right, guys, until next time, live small and dream big.